Welcome to Climate Change with Scott Amyx. I'm your host, Scott, and today I'm joined by Sonya Denton, who is a co-founder and CEO at weDstll. Welcome.
Hi, Scott.
All right. So in your prior life, you were a reporter and a news anchor at a couple of the major Canadian broadcasters.
Yes.
So tell us about that experience.
Well, I learned a lot. I learned that stories matter. They really do. And they build up such an emotional connection that one that is hard to forget. So that was the experience that I took away from journalism, as well as how important it is to get the right information to people so they can make informed decisions in their lives.
Yeah. Something about storytelling is such a powerful medium. It's amazing in this day and age of fourth industrial revolution that no matter what that complex subject matter is, if it's not packaged up in a story, it's just not well understood. And something about the makeup of our brain where we just intuitively understand stories. So it's powerful. So speaking of stories, why did you decide to transition from your media role to your current startup, which is weDstll? And what is weDstll?
Well, first of all, it's important to be extremely happy with what you're doing, and especially if you're putting a lot of your energy there. It got to a point, I think, in my career where I just wanted something different. And which is really strange because if you ever asked me that even 5 years before I decided to transition out of journalism, I would have been like, what are you talking about? That's ridiculous. But, as life evolves and life happens, you realize, or I realized at the time that I wanted to move out of that career, but there were a few things that I wanted to take along with me. And a big part of that was my love for stories. Because like you said, it's all about that emotional connection that stories can bring that nothing else really can, in my opinion, as well as, of course, the power of giving people the right information so they can make important decisions in their lives. And also, through that journey of mine, deciding to move out of journalism, for me, I realized that inner beauty is extremely important. To understand who you are and to live with that type of conviction is not easy. And I believe that you need a community in order to make that happen. And that's what weDstll is. Like I took my love of stories and that contextual stories, which is the finer details underneath the story that connects people with the information, as well as my love of inner beauty to transition into this company.
Okay. Yeah. By the way, I was going to say that you were definitely in an enviable position for many that are looking to break into kind of the news anchoring and news reporting business. But I think you hit on something that's very important is that it's finding our North Star or our personal compass. And it's not just simply about pure aspirations, but it has to fit within what makes sense for us at that moment. And some of those journeys can be hard, but oftentimes our life is very much that non-linear journey, isn't it? And having the courage to take that next step. So congratulations on your launch of your startup.
Thank you.
In terms of your startup, you focus on value-based consumerism. Can you elaborate more on what that means?
What that means is consumers today really want the brands to speak for them. They're not buying products or services if they feel that the brand doesn't represent their values. So what that means is if I'm spending $1 now with someone, I expect that person to represent what I believe in. That brand becomes an extension of who I am. So that's where things are moving, and the studies show that. So that's what I mean.
All right, so we could use terms like ESG and various other terminologies like UN SDGs. Where is that coming from? Is it a generational kind of a millennial type of
It's
focus, or is it something else that's bigger that's driving people to want to associate with certain values and making sure that values align with the brands that we interface with?
I think it's probably both. When I look at just wanting to know is huge. That level of transparency that gives you the information that allows you to make the decisions that you want to make When you don't see what's underneath the surface, you can't make an informed decision that is right for you. And that's where I believe things are moving. More and more people are crying for that level of transparency, whether it may be how products are sourced, how are people treated behind the products, the sourcing aspect of that product. Does this brand believe in what I believe in? Do they care about the environment? When they are creating their packaging, is it going to harm the environment? All of those aspects around a brand that I'm going to, as a consumer, put my money behind matters.
Now let's get a little bit more concrete. You focus on natural beauty. What does natural beauty mean? Can you talk about some of the kinds of products that gets featured?
Well, natural beauty is basically a product that is sourced from natural ingredients that are not harmful to you. So, but for me, I take it a step further. For me, natural beauty too is inner beauty. It is, me defining who I am and what I want, and allowing that to transition from inside out. So it's who I hang around with, what I say to myself, what I believe in, how I allow people to treat me. That to me also is natural beauty. So that's what we focus on within the application. So the brands that we would focus on will be indie beauty brands. And these brands are brands that, of course, care about the environment. They care about customer experience. And they want to work with the consumer hand in hand so they can collaborate. So each side can achieve their goals.
So again, if we could get into a little bit more specific around the kinds of categories we're talking about. Are we talking about makeup? Are we talking about body lotion? What are we talking about?
Yeah, we'll talk about makeup, skin cream, hair products.
And in terms of natural, how do they define natural, and what does that truly mean?
They define natural as well as clean, green. Some define it as organic. So there are various stages of various categories of uh, green would be, is this product sustainable? Does it hurt the environment? Natural, are these products sourced from natural ingredients? But you and I both know natural doesn't always mean great. Petrolatum is natural too, right? So, I mean, obviously, the ingredients that are natural have to be good for you. Clean, non-toxic, organic, so each and every brand brings something to this platform.
So, I think within your category, there's a lot of, I would say, abuse in terms of the terms that are used. And many, will promote themselves as natural or green when in fact they're still using ingredients that are synthetic chemicals and manufactured in lab settings. What do you are willing to associate yourself with?
For me, we're going to allow the consumer to make that decision. So brands aren't allowed to be on the platform if they're not willing to be transparent. So we have different categories of transparency. Being transparent about the ingredients that they put in their products, how those ingredients are sourced, how the people behind those ingredients are treated, being upfront about that, even showing uh, details around that. So the consumer can decide, is this the brand that I really want to work with? If I don't want a particular ingredient in this product, I don't need to have that ingredient in that product. I'll just move on to another product. So the brands are there to say, this is who I am. The consumers are there to say, okay, do you have what I'm looking for? If you don't, then I'll just move on to somebody else.
So
Let
how
the consumer decide.
how do they reconcile this incongruency sometimes where their inner beauty or their value system uh, drives them towards certain types of company aspirational values, but in reality, what they actually use and continue to use are things that are potentially harmful to the environment, and partly because effectiveness. So if you're talking about makeup, synthetic artificial things frankly work better than natural remedies. So how do they address that kind of that incongruency?
Not always. I think that that's the reason why we have our advisors. Ronit Talby is a beauty expert, and she's going to be helping to make sure that some of the products that are on, the majority of the products that are on the platform do meet certain standards before we allow them to onboard, as well as On the platform itself, you've got a values-based profile. So within that profile, a consumer can say, I want brands that are sustainable. I want brands that give back to the community. These are the ingredients that I like. These are my allergies. This is essentially what I value. Those consumers are then matched with the brands that also disclose that information. And if the consumer sees a brand on there that is not what they say they are, then the brand is no longer on the platform. So we allow the consumers, it's a community that polices that.
Now, what kinds of trends are you seeing in terms of the brand side? Are we talking about the kind of typical large blue chip companies that are creating more sustainable niche lines, but fundamentally they're still this big manufacturing company or cosmetic company? Or are you seeing more of kind of emerging niche boutique or smaller types of shops?
We're focused on indie, so small to medium sized companies that are interested as well in giving back to their local community. So we're really focused on that. Are we interested, of course, moving outside of Canada and everything else? Of course we are. It's a business. But at the same time, we are focused on really trying to build up a local ecosystem within the platform.
Now, one of the practical resistance I think that consumers have is even though they desire to want to associate with the kinds of indie smaller players that truly say what they do, is the cost premium, is the fact that they vis-a-vis relative to other substitutes just cost more. So how do people reconcile that?
Well, within the platform as well, I mean, you can choose what your price point is. Within our platform, we have a reward system. So the more you give to the platform in terms of sharing your ideas, sharing products that you really love, you're able to also gain rewards for discounts on products that the brand would select for you to try anyway. So there are lots of opportunities to try products at a discount. So yeah.
Now, one of the biggest challenges with impact and sustainability types of products or services is that it's difficult to measure. So, this notion of claim, again, not your entity per se, but just overall claim that what we're doing is going to positively impact climate change. Is that a big tall claim that can be backed up? And what are you doing at an organizational level to ensure that there's some type of a measurement in terms of effectiveness and the net impact to the environment?
That's a good question. And that's something I believe that we will be working on moving forward. And you're right. I mean, the only way we can quantify that would be through our data, right? And we would obviously have to rely on the brands to be able to make sure that they're giving the right information. So that's going to be a work in progress.
All right, sounds great. And how can people learn more about your startup?
So weDstll.com to sign up for that.
All right, so today I've been joined by Sonya Denton, who is the CEO of weDstll. Thanks for joining today.
Thank you so much, Scott, for having me.